So there are many of these profound questions that one can end up asking oneself. I mentioned two of them, but the list is endless, really. One thing that you can consider that becomes very obvious sometimes when you have concerns about the past is to suddenly notice, in a sense almost with a kind of shock, that whenever you think about the past, it's always now that you're thinking about the past. In other words, there's no past for you except now. I've got no answer to that. I'm just saying it's another question that's very profound and very direct and very simple. Doesn't involve thinking about God, thinking about anything. It's just thinking about your direct experience. And the effect of that kind of question is, again, that when you ask yourself the question, then what does it mean to talk about now? What does it mean to talk about the past? There's a sense that your mind opens up to that question in a very strong kind of way. It's like, actually, there are two things that are going on there. One is the profound question that expects some answer from some kind of deep, profound wisdom aspect that is going to be revealed in yourself. Because after all, for the moment when you're working in this way, where else could it be revealed? But there's that quality of waiting as well, which allows that some sense of answer in whatever way, but probably not intellectual, to display itself. You need some kind of ground of space, of relaxation, of quietness, in a sense, for that to happen. And in Buddhism, those are sometimes called two kinds of training. So the first one, where you're, the second rather, I should say, where you're relaxing, allowing yourself to open out, that, as I hinted really just now, is a training in meditation. Training in that open quality of mind and heart, training always to turn towards everything. And the other training, which is the training of some deep understanding. Something really profound that can arise. It's not quite a training in the sense you've got some kind of object that you work at, but simply from the quality of space, something new arises. It's not the same as the space. The space gives it the opportunity for it to arise. It's like the inspiration that arises out of some creativity. You have to have the space for the inspiration to come. Like the space is the meditative aspect, the inspiration is the wisdom aspect. So those two always seem to go together. The question is, as the mind relaxes, what happens? And in Buddhism, for centuries now, people have practiced in this way. It's not like just a few people have practiced, but many, many people, men and women, even quite young people, adolescents, teenagers in the tradition have done this as well. And certain things, you can say, if they persist, always happen to them. First, if they relax sufficiently, the mind begins to flow in its own space, you might say. and then some quality of genuine bliss or happiness begins to come. And that isn't the reason you practice. It's very nice when it happens. You may say, I've never experienced anything as pleasant as that in my whole life. It's far, perhaps, exceeds any other kind of experience of joy or happiness you can imagine. But it's not the purpose of it, just to indulge in that. It's to use that as a basis for going further, as I say, as a way of seeing. And what do you see? Well, many things are possible. An infinite number of different possibilities. But one of the very greatest and most common is that focus on and that making much of one's own egocentricity collapses, at least maybe for a moment. You have a momentary experience of that. You may say, well, it must be wonderful for one's egocentricity to collapse. Well, probably it is wonderful, but it's not necessarily very pleasant. Because after all, it's what our lives are based on, our own ego-centeredness. So it's like the center of our lives might seem to collapse when this happens. So it could be a very disturbing experience. And people are sometimes faced with the two things. An experience of that as a real truth, fundamental truth of things, is a truth of something which is beyond ego, beyond self, beyond the self. And at the same time, the feeling, I'm really not ready to let go of my sense of self, my sense of ego. And it's a bit like dying, maybe, at that point. So although there are these very pleasant experiences that you can get through the practice of meditation, when you move on to the second stage, you get what they call the training in wisdom, or the profoundness, the profound answers to these questions that come as direct experience rather than intellectual answers. They're very emotionally disturbing for people. And that's why these things are not easy. You know, you might say, if it's all as easy as that, why isn't the results of Buddhism already well known? Well, the answer is, you don't want things like that are so disturbing, because they seem to undermine the very basis of one's existence. However, that's really just ego saying to you somehow, you can put it that way, you wouldn't be able to exist without me. But it so happens that isn't true. You would function better without your egocentricity than with it. I think this is perhaps the first of the profound experiences. You might have asked yourself a number of questions, as I say, like, what's the meaning of life? Why isn't there anything at all? What's the real meaning of time, or real meaning of the present or the past? But the usual experience that people feel most sharply and most keenly is that sense of a momentary collapse of their egocentricity. That's very disturbing, but it's very true, and because it's very true, people feel they want to somehow cleave to that experience, to continue with the practice, disturbing though it might be.